So, welcome to our live lean and green cooking demo with my special guest today, Marlo Larson. Super excited to be here today with you, and we are making what? Tell us what we're making today.
We're making what I famously refer to as spaghetti squash taco bake. It's delicious, it's easy, and I make it on most nights when I make my boys burritos and they want no part of squash, and I don't have time for that fight.
So it's kid-friendly. So what you're saying?
Kid-friendly in that it's very easy to make 2 meals out of one, right? One very nutritionally compliant meal to whatever program you might be working, and one very, very kid-friendly meal, and it's one of their faves, so it's easy.
And that's so true. So I do the same exact thing. Sometimes my kids don't want the healthy version of it, and sometimes they do. But I like to do recipes where I can adapt them so that one of the biggest complaints I hear from clients and from other fellow moms and from health don't want to make more than one meal every night, and that they don't take care of themselves or their health because they have to cook for everybody else and they don't find the time, or really what it comes down to, don't feel they're worthy, right? To put the extra time into making their own meals. But this is a way where you don't have to find that time. You're kind of cooking the same flavor profiles, the same things, and then you can adapt them to be one with all vegetables and one, my kids actually will eat this, the meat part of this with chips, or they will eat the meat part of this over brown rice, or they will eat the meat part of this in kind of a burrito bowl or something. And Mike and I will have it as a lean and green meal.
So much the same here. They're very good with their veggies. I have 6 boys, and I am not fighting the fight on the squash when they eat a myriad of other things. I have bigger fish to fry, right? So the bottom line is, you don't want the squash today, then we will offer it with a brown rice or a wrap, or they prefer the chip way most times. I try to do a low carb wrap, sneak that in. They don't even know. I've snuck in the turkey where they thought it was chopped meat. So yeah, it's just ridiculously easy, and it works for everybody, and it makes my life. It was done in about 20 minutes, the whole process, 25 minutes. So.
Okay, and speaking of that, so I have to grab my recipe off the printer, but I'm preheating my oven. I'm preheating it to 350, right? Let me know.
I do it, you can do it 350. 350 is fine. I do it a little bit hotter, a little bit faster, because our method of making the spaghetti squash is a bit different. So for me, should I go into that now, Jack? I think I'll go into that. So basically,
yeah, go into that.
Yeah, so I do the microwave to make the skin soft. If you've ever dealt with a spaghetti squash, you could possibly hatchet yourself to death because you will try to get through the skin with it raw, and you could wind up on the floor bleeding out. So what you want to do is honestly make it soft. Jackie does, I understand, she boils hers. I put mine in the microwave. This one is a very large one. It went in the microwave for about 9 minutes. When it was 6 minutes, I poke a little hole in it just to give it a little so it doesn't explode in the microwave. And then I move on to cutting it in half, pulling out the seeds, and just roasting it for the rest of the way, because I like it roasted. I like that crispiness that comes with roasting it. So that's my process. Jackie's is a little bit simpler in that I think she just steams it.
So I'll give props to Christine Aspermonti, who's one of my clients and one of my friends. Christine Aspermonti blew my world last year when she told me that she takes a sauce pot, boiling water, and a spaghetti squash, and in 20 minutes, she's got it ready. And that's it. So
I will say both methods are about 20 minutes. They don't take much longer than that. So
yeah,
it's a matter of how you, yeah.
So we've talked before about how I hate cleanup. And so for me to just have to do that to this pot is my favorite part.
But you should also, that's something I have to speak to, because you should know that I much prefer to clean a toilet than cook anything. So, and I'm not kidding. People, I wish I was kidding, but I'm not kidding, which is part and parcel to how you have to change your rituals. And a lot of this conversation will go on to that. But the truth be told, I'd rather clean a toilet. And people used to say, you could go to Marlo's house and eat off the toilet, but you don't really want to eat anything she makes. So that has been a process for me. And in this part of the journey to embrace that in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years and really move past.
So tell me about that. So I'm going to grab a knife. So I'll start everybody off. I have my spaghetti squash. It's boiled. It's soft. This took about 20 minutes. It actually cracked. So I'm not going to, and I'll go into what I'm going to do instead. One half I'm going to make into a boat so you can see what that looks like. And the other half I'm going to make into a casserole dish. And there's 2 servings. So one of us is going to get to eat it fancy. And the other one's going to get it in a bowl. So, because he doesn't really care. Presentation matters to me. I like for what I eat to look really pretty because then I just feel better about it. And Marlo.
She terrified me with that part this morning because I am not about presentation. So she's like, well, if you can you leave it in the boat? I'm like, I really usually rip the crap out of the skin. So I was very diligent and it is in the boat. I want you to know. Really
so I'm going to cut mine open and I'm going to scoop out the seeds and I'm going to get my spaghetti squash out of this form and into the measuring cup. We need 2 cups of spaghetti squash strands. And so that's what we're working with total for this recipe. You are definitely going to have more than that. Spaghetti squash can be used in so many things. We actually just posted, there you go.
This is my leftover, just so you know. It was a really big one, probably about 4.5 pounds. And I have 3 cups of spaghetti squash left over. And I'll be, truth be told, is probably about 3 cups in mine. So. Because it's so hard with them to figure out exactly what you're going to get out of it. So.
Yeah, so save it and use it. And there's plenty of things. Check my Facebook page. Check of all the groups for the recipes. Just type in spaghetti squash and you'll find a million other ways for you to use it. So I am going to, I'm going to change my camera angle and I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey, Marlo, and kind of how you got here, because you said you'd rather clean the toilet than cook. And here we are cooking your favorite Mexican spaghetti squash casserole. So tell me about your journey with weight loss. Tell us who you are and how you got here, February 3rd, 2021, and where you are in that journey. Tell us.
That's a mouthful. Okay. So, in preparing for this with Jackie, we talked about, going back to when this began for me. So the struggle with weight began much like most people in puberty, but the truth of the matter is it really came to a head when I was married for the first time. I was pregnant to my first son and I was 315 pounds. And so in that reality, I felt a pull to care for him in a way that obviously I wasn't caring for myself. And so the long, short story is that in that pregnancy, I was 315 pounds when I started. I was 250 pounds the day I gave birth to him and the next day when I walked out of the hospital. And looking back, as Jackie asked, looking back on the journey, I could do anything in service to others, certainly to my son. And it wasn't fair to him that I was out of control. And there are things that will put you in the right state and there are things that will take you out. And I felt in that moment and had some clarity that it wasn't his to bear my burden. So I could take care of him that way. Interesting, right? So fast forward, it wasn't a marriage that lasted. And I found myself a single mom and I was 300 and something pounds again after new baby and tired, and literally my ex-husband was gone within the first 3 months of him being born. And that whole story ended up in what do I do? Where do I go? And what's the decisions I'm going to make? And that led me to one of my hopes, wants, dreams, that I wanted to be a police officer. So I know, crazy. And 9/11 happens, fast forward, 9/11 happens, and it puts me on a trajectory that to this day I am so grateful for. I don't even know how to say the gratitude I have, because I made a decision that I would be taking the police test, be in the police academy by the following year, if that was even possible. And I don't even know that I knew that at the time. So that's kind of how I got set on the course of this path. And I had gastric bypass surgery after losing about 315 again. I probably went into surgery, day of surgery, about 275. And had gastric bypass surgery at about 275, 78 pounds in 2001, I believe. 2001. And that's it. That's what set me on this journey of a lifetime, quite honestly. And it's been, I maintained the weight loss from the gastric bypass. Most of that weight loss is still maintained. I kept the better part of 80 pounds off for the last 20 years, the better part. And I've struggled in between and everywhere in the last 10. I would like to tell, I guess what I said is I promised myself when I turned 40 that that would be the last year I would struggle with it. I'm here to tell you that in the last 10 years, never say, never again. But what I have learned is that by 50, the promises I keep to myself, and that 50 comes this summer, the promises I keep to myself matter. The things I do every day matter. I call them my rituals. And when I show up this way for myself, life changes. So it really does come down to the decisions that you make, and I make different decisions and I get a different outcome. So that's kind of the shortest version I can do.
Short, long version. And listen, and here we are, right? And so you're finishing what you started 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
This is the 20th anniversary of the day you started to choose you and choose health. And you didn't even know you were choosing you. You were actually choosing Noah. But in the end, choosing Noah has translated to choosing you, because Noah's a grown man now. And you can't do this for Noah. You have to do this for you. And I think that's what's happened. And, I've only had the honor of knowing you for the past couple of years, but I've even seen a progression in just those years. So we're going to get to that. But right now, I want to tell everybody what I'm doing with this. And so we're moving on to the meat portion of this, to the lean portion of this. And the recipe calls for 12 ounces of lean ground turkey, or 14 ounces of leaner ground turkey, or 16 ounces of leanest ground turkey. And what I have is leanest, which is 99% lean. And that's what we're using because I had it in the house and we have a snowstorm up here in the Northeast. And this is what we're using. So normally I have the 94 because that's what I get at Sam's Club in bulk. But this is what I had in the house. So what this says is we're going to prepare a non-stick skillet with cooking spray and heat the pan and add the chicken. And what else do we add to that? So I'm going to get this ready and you kind of tell everybody what we're adding to it.
And I just want to say the 99% may require that, but I will tell you with the 97% or the 93 or 4, you don't even need the skillet to be sprayed because honestly, it doesn't stick. It will create its own juice and it's fine. So that's another little tip if you need it. What are we adding to it? It's pretty straightforward. It's the meat's going to break down like you would normally make a taco type meat. Just keep, throw it in there, let it get hot a little bit and begin to break it up. And then honestly, I think Jackie's throwing in some tomatoes, and I found last minute that my tomatoes were gone and there was no time for the store. So I threw in mushrooms. I think this is really a personal, again, you can manipulate it. I learned very quickly when I started to cook, whatever works.
Whatever works. And that's the beauty of this, right? So this original recipe was not over spaghetti squash. It was over broccoli. They called it a Mexican bowl. And we just kind of switched it out and we made it spaghetti squash. Why? Because we both had spaghetti squash. So here we are. I wanted to tell you about this tool. So this is a Pampered Chef tool that I love. And it's to break up taco meat. And all you do is put this in there and swirl it. And
this is my version. It's really hard. As long as it's, you can like really, that's the point. And I love the Pampered Chef one. Mine got mangled in my move.
Because cooking tools don't make you excited.
No, they do not. As a matter of fact, there's not a truer statement on the planet. So, my people who see me, even the idea that I'm doing this is beyond them. Like I'm doing a cooking show. It's pretty funny.
Well, we're live and you're tagged. So people are watching. Your people.
I know. Which is insane. You probably shouldn't have reminded me of that. Anyway, so
now you know. So guys, Marlo's cooking. All right. It calls for measurements in whatever with time. I'm just going to do it kind of to taste, but it calls for a half a teaspoon of garlic powder and 2 teaspoons of taco seasoning. This is store-bought taco seasoning. I actually have my own that I make with just the spices and none of the crap added to it. But I want to show you this. I have
to do gluten-free, so I have a very hard time finding gluten-free. So for those of you who do, if you Google or Alexa, hey, homemade taco spice, it's the easiest thing on the planet. And
okay, Google. Did you ever see that? That grandma, that Italian grandma trying to Google? You guys out there, if you have
that's hilarious.
Go and Google the video for the Italian grandma talking to Google. It is
My Italian aunt calls it the Google. The Google. I will the Google.
All right, so I am mixing this up and I just want you guys to see there. And I'm just making my meat. And I used a pound because this was the leanest. And generally speaking, when you cook, you lose about an ounce for every half a pound. So if you're making an 8-ounce piece of steak, you lose about an ounce in cooking and you're gonna get a 7-ounce piece. So that's really good to know. So 16 ounces is probably gonna end up with 14 ounces of cooked meat. And you basically just want it until it's a little bit brown because it's going to cook more in the oven. So I'm gonna leave this here. The meat, we're gonna add the tomatoes like Marlo said, but this first step was just the spices. So I'm gonna turn that off for a second. And the next piece, oh, also this is another tip, and we'll talk about this with you and the cheese. So Marlo uses lactose-free cheese. So I think you use what, vegan cheese?
A vegan cheese. I wish I had kept the wrapper because I always forget the name, but I do use it because sometimes non-dairy is better in this house than dairy. So yeah, it's just the thing that I think people should know. It's actually more than tolerable. It works. It's really not bad. It gives you consistency for sure. And some of them actually will give you taste. So.
And so I use regular cheese, but the reason why I'm bringing up the cheese is if you like less meat and more cheese, you can easily take away some of the crumbles and add more cheese. But for the purposes of this, we're gonna follow it exactly like the recipe. And so the cheese we're gonna use is about 1/2 cup, and that's gonna make 2 servings. Okay, so the next step is to add the spaghetti squash to a hot skillet, mix in diced tomatoes, Laughing Cow cheese, and mix that all together. So that's actually in a separate pan. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this meat out and just put it in a bowl. And then I'm gonna use my same pan because I don't like to clean up.
I actually use the same pan. I'm gonna be full disclosure here.
What'd you say?
There's not a place in my world for 2 pans. I'm not gonna lie, I use the same pan. Absolutely use it.
And we want to come to people with something that is easy, healthy, yummy. That is how I roll. If it is not all 3, it doesn't happen in this house. It has to be easy, it has to be healthy, and it has to be yummy. So
and I'll be honest, my aunts, my grandmas, I've come from a big Italian family. They were phenomenal cooks, but they made it look complicated. I had a very good friend that really started my cooking journey, and she made it uncomplicated. And that's how I roll, and that's how I'm able to take care of myself in a different way. So if you make it uncomplicated, you will do it. And this is a one-pot stop for me, so.
All right, I'm going to talk to you about the tomatoes because we use these.
Love those.
Because they have the green chilies in them, and we like a little heat in this house. I like a little heat. My husband interprets that as I like heat, which I don't. I like a little heat. So these are hot. But if you like a little heat, use that. If not, you could also use regular chopped tomatoes that you just dice up yourself, or a regular can of regular diced tomatoes. But again, we're in a snowstorm and this is what I had in the house. So spicy it is. So I'm going to drain these in my colander. And I'm going to take my spaghetti squash and I am going to add it to that pan. I'm going to spray the pan. Marlo, tell us a little bit about, tell us like where you are now, like this new part of your journey, this 20-year anniversary, this I'm finally getting to where I said I was going to be. You know, where are you? What's different than so many years ago? What's going to be different this time that actually helps you finish what you started?
This right here, this what we're doing right now is probably part and parcel to everything that I'm doing. This is a declaration in public to what I have wanted so badly in private. And to be honest, I think there is weight to that. And I think there is something about constantly growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. And I think there were times, you know, I'm not going to lie, that I definitely thought if I don't do something, God willing, it wasn't literally, but certainly figuratively dying. And the more I take this journey, the more I do things like this, the more I learn every day how to do it better, differently, get outside the box of what I had put myself into. And that's real. That's not words, listen to a podcast, read a book, reach out to you because maybe you have a better idea on what's not working for me right now. Recommit to things that I was able and capable of, i.e. my exercise, my workout. It's always been part of my life. Before I was a couple, but certainly ever since, whether I was 300 pounds or 150 pounds, the workout for me is not about the sweat. The workout for me is about Prozac, right? It's my form of Prozac. That's what I say. So those things that I know were good, I kept. The things I know weren't so good, I've worked through. Are they all gone? Of course not. It's a work in progress. But that's the difference. The willingness to look at what I call my rituals, right? The things that put you in a state to be able to move forward and make progress, and the things that put you in a state that hold you back. And I will not be held back this time. It's absolutely out of the question. So even for this is within my wheelhouse. So why was I saying I couldn't do this in my mind? Why was I saying that this is not something I'm capable of? Your mind is a terrible place. I have to be honest with you if it's not focused well. So that's my story in that where I am and how I got here. It's taking control a little bit of the mind and understanding that you have to step aside from it sometimes. And the mind is always looking for what's wrong. And there's a lot that's right. So you have to.
The journey, right? Like all I hear throughout everything you just said is the journey. That's the journey. The journey has taken you 20 years. And maybe along the way, you felt like you failed because in your mind, you were doing it 20 years ago and you never actually got to that finish line. But the journey and the beauty of everything you've learned and all the things you just said, you take the good, you leave the bad, you move on to the next, you personally grow, you learn this, you do that, you figure out this is standing in your way, you move past it. Like that sounds like a journey to me. Put on your hiking boots and let's go, right? Like
you made that sound very, super positive. And I guess the truth is we've had tons of conversations and that is the truth. It is not, overnight successes are made in 20 years. And 15 years and 10 years. I think I heard that somewhere before. So the truth is there's been a lot of success along the way. And what I've learned recently is to be grateful for those things and the things that don't work. That looks ridiculously good.
Just going to show you guys, listen, because I think it only shows my screen when I'm speaking or making noise and the rest of the time it's on you.
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
And listen, we're brand new at this, so I'm going to work on other camera angles, but I like it this way. I'm winging it. This is real. This is real life. I just wanted to show everybody what it looks like. So you're just sauteing that a little bit. And once it's hot, we're adding in 2 Laughing Cow cheeses. It says to use the Chipotle one, but guess what? I didn't have them. So I'm using my regular Laughing Cow light Swiss ones.
And I use the cheddar because that's what I had.
And you use cheddar because that's what you had. And I'm using the tomatillos with chilies. So I got a lot of Mexican flavors going on here. I'm not worried about the Chipotle. So we throw these in and we actually just make it get a little bit creamy, right? So these are going to melt in here. I'm going to crumble them in and we're going to talk a little bit more. And then we're actually going to just add everything together and plate it. And honestly, like this is going to be done. So it's 12:25, which is perfect. Because I like to show you that easy, healthy, yummy can be done in less than 20 minutes. And in less than 30 minutes. And we're doing it. So that's
I just want to say again and bring it back to the fact that I want you to see, I'm going to show it to you. Sitting on my stove, is my kids' portion, right? That's their plain. I do it with they don't want the tomato. They don't want certain things. And I make them, they love that yellow rice. I know everybody knows that bag of yellow rice. I don't know the name of it.
Oh, it's like saffron rice, right?
Yeah, I'm going to grab it. Just for the kids, not for us. But here it is. That one, I make it, and that's it, and it's done. So both are done. And I don't, there's no stress to when they get home and who has basketball and who has nonsense going on.
And I want to talk a little bit about the kids too, because we're not saying that we want our kids to be unhealthy. We're saying that, you got to meet everybody where they're at. And most people have kids whose palates are not yet equipped for always eating just healthy things, right? So my kids, and I'll shout out to my mother-in-law. I shout out to my mother-in-law every time I cook. She actually waits for it now. So, Ma, here you go. My kids will tell you my mother-in-law's meatballs are much better than my meatballs, and they are. But we get them every once in a while, and I make turkey meatballs. Like, it's not the same as beef, lamb, pork. It's not. It's a meatloaf mix for a reason. It's a meatball mix for a reason. She uses a lot of things that I do not use. She fries them in an actual pan with oil. I bake mine in the oven. There's a lot. I throw veggies in mine. But I ask my kids all the time, are mine fine? And yes, the answer is they're fine. They're fine. Do they love hers? And if she sends us home with leftovers, are they going to prefer that? And mine are going in the freezer? 100%. That's okay. That's okay. Because little by little, I'm teaching them that you can have really indulgent things every once in a while. You just don't want to be having them all the time.
So my friend who taught me most of these easy, non-100-year Italian style things makes a turkey meatball that my kids would go crazy for. Much the same story. Their grandmother makes a regular meatball. That's a given, right? That's easy to top. She's going to top me. But I still had to contend with Auntie Mish's meatball isn't like yours. Auntie Mish's meatball is turkey, and she does bake them. And it took me a little while to get comfortable because cooking wasn't my wheelhouse. But don't let it stop you, because now I finally got, maybe 5 years later, wow, this kind of tastes like Auntie Mish's. So it'll get there, and it's not the same, but it's just as good as,
It's just as good as, or it's fine for now, or it's fine. Listen, I'm going for fine. I learned a long time ago. I strove to be a straight A student in my whole life, and it did not serve me to be a straight A student all the time. And sometimes being a B student is really, really good, because guess what? You still make honor roll. You still make honor roll. And nobody would know the difference, and people would die to be a B student. So, here's my version of this. I'm actually just now mixing this in all together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw half of the mixture into the shell of this boat, and we're going to throw half of the mixture into this pretty aluminum thing that my husband's going to get to eat out of tonight, because the other half died. And then we're just going to throw it in the oven for 10 minutes until it's melted. So I'm going to plate this. And as I'm plating this, Marlo, I want you to tell people. So let's say there's people out there who are in your spot. They're in that 315. They're in that 350, 400. They're considering bariatric surgery, or they're already had it. And they're on their journey and they're stuck, and they can't move forward past the initial weight that they lost. What do you say to them? What is your biggest piece of advice to them?
I would say that it doesn't matter the vehicle. So that means weight loss surgery, any of the myriad of weight loss vehicles that we all know are available to us, right? And I could name all of them, and we all know the names. It all comes down, I think, out of 100%, 80% is psychology and 20% is the mechanics, right? 20% is actually going to be what you actually do, and 80% of it is getting it right in your mind. And I would say to the person considering weight loss surgery, do the work that is required of that process to know if that's really where you need to be. And if it's really your decision that that's what has to happen because you don't see another path after you do the work. I've been around a long time, and I've known a lot of people and helped a lot of people who've had bariatric surgery, and they will admit, I did the work, which is why I think my 20-year path took me to a good place over time. I did not put on my weight. I did a lot of the work that was necessary before and after. So that's my spiel to the people who are considering. The people who, have done it already, do the work. You have changed your body. And to me, the incredible onus is on you now that you've changed your body to be responsible to yourself and those around you. And whether you have people, you don't have people, you certainly have a responsibility to yourself. And I took that part of the gastric bypass piece very seriously. I was about to change my body because my mind wasn't changing fast enough. It was changing, but not fast enough. And I was on a timeline. I had a reality I wanted. I would just say that's the most important piece. Life comes down to the choices that you make, and make informed choices. And I believe you will see your way clear. I really, really do. And living this way gives you clarity. That's the other beautiful thing. I will say that the clearer you get, the cleaner you get in your purpose, your eating, your every day, the clarity comes. So that's my 2 cents. That's what I think it needs to be.
I love it. I love it because it's two different folks. It's the folks that know they need this. They know they need it, right? And there's no failure in that. They need it. There's
It's okay. It's okay if that's your vehicle.
It's okay. And the second piece is maybe you don't know if you need it, and maybe you just don't trust that there is a process, and maybe you just don't trust that you can trust yourself to the process. But
truth be told, if I trusted myself, if I was in a different place, I really don't believe I would have needed it. And that's the truth, because subsequently I have lost a tremendous amount of weight post-bariatric surgery. So clearly I'm capable of it.
And you're finish what you started 20 years later. Listen, you have 5 months now. So big.
And I'm 20 pounds in, and there's, in my estimation, at least 50 more to go. So that's where I am, and I'm good in that place right now. It's happening every day. Jackie gets a text every day. There is progress.
And
progress,
because it's progress.
I have to say that progress really does equal happiness. As long as you're making.
I'm showing everybody this because I don't know if they saw.
Oh my God, that looks good.
Okay, so this is what it is. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle on half the cheese onto this, and I'm going to sprinkle half of the cheese onto this. And I'm about to go throw it in my oven. And Marlo is going, she already has hers done. And so as soon as I go put this in, you're going to pull yours out. So go get it, girlfriend.
All right. I'm gonna try and hold this up. It really does look good, though. I'm not gonna lie.
There it is. Oh, look at the presentation, Marlo. You made it into a boat just for me.
Boat just for you, girl.
It is a humongous spaghetti squash pie.
It is. I can't even tell you. You know that this is. Everybody knows this baking pan from Pirate. It is huge. So it's 2 servings in here. It's huge.
Okay. All right. So listen, this has been wonderful, and I appreciate you coming on and opening up your heart to us and sharing your journey. And I'm sure many people watching are completely inspired by you, and I get to be completely inspired by you every single day of my life. And for that, I thank the universe for bringing us together. And I hope everybody enjoys their Mexican spaghetti squash casserole / boats. And we will see you next week with another amazing recipe, with another amazing journey from another amazing client. So I will talk to you all soon. Thank you, Marlo.
Thank you. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.